So good morning to one and all present here. I am Vedpriya Lahiri, Assistant Professor at DME, and I would extend a warm welcome to you all on this Saturday morning. So the basic purpose of this webinar here today is to facilitate students like you to take an informed decision regarding your upcoming career choices. So unlike in the past when parents thought that only medicine and engineering are the good career options for children, at present their students have a number of career options to choose from. So it could be ranging from a lawyer to a media personnel to a budding manager, etc. So, keeping this in mind, today in this webinar, we are going to talk about the various options a student would have when he opts for the GGSIPU University, which is an A grade state university. So, before we start, I would like to welcome Poonam Rani ma'am, Vice Principal, Kendriya Vidyalaya, AGCR Colony. Ma'am is an academician with a very long legacy in teaching. She has an MSc, MPhil in mathematics and is CSR, NET, and GATE qualified. She has been a PGT Maths for 7 years and was formerly the in charge principal of KV Air Force Station in Saharanpur. We welcome you to today's event, ma'am. I would also like to welcome our guest for today and speaker, Professor Dr. Ravikant Swami, Director DME. Sir has over 24 years of experience in teaching and administration and holds a PhD degree from University of Rajasthan in Jaipur. Before sir, we begin, I would like to tell you that we will be taking questions at the end of this session of presentation. So I would like you to reserve them and put them in the chat box when I call you. Now I would request sir to start with the presentation for today. Over to you, sir.
Okay, so I'll share my screen. Okay, so students of Kendriya Vidyalaya Kadkar Duma, let me tell you what is the objective of this presentation. There are two major universities in Delhi. There are many universities, but then there are two major universities, University of Delhi, which popularly we call DU, and second is IP University, the Indraprasth University, right? The full name is Guru Govind Singh Indraprasth University. Now, these two are the major universities because both these universities have around 90 affiliated colleges. So everywhere we find that there is an IP college or an DU college, right? Now, both these universities belong to the Delhi government. Like one is a central university, second belongs to the Delhi government. Now, both these universities do not compete with each other. They do not compete with each other, rather they complement each other. What do I mean? Now, this simply means that one university, the University of Delhi, runs the academic courses, while IP University runs professional courses. So in a while, we are going to talk about the difference between academic and professional courses, but let us begin with the introduction to IP University. So the university is located in Dwarka, but this is like the headquarter, and the colleges are spread throughout Delhi and NCR. While I say NCR, it means the districts adjoining Delhi, which are Gautam Budh Nagar, Ghaziabad, Faridabad, Gurugram, and Sonipat, right? So IP University affiliates colleges in all these adjoining districts plus in Delhi. So in today's presentation, it's not a long presentation, students, because I know you are busy people. So in today's presentation, we are going to talk about 5 things, right? So what are these 5 things? First, about IP University. Second, the courses, as I said, only professional courses. Third, the admission process, for which the last date is 31st July. It was 15th July, but then it was extended to 31st July. Then the fee structures, and then the scope of these professional courses. This is what we are going to discuss in the coming 25 to 30 minutes. Let us start with the first point, introduction to IP University. So IP University was established by Delhi government in 1998. It was the first university to be established after Delhi got its partial statehood. As you know, Delhi is not a complete state, it is a partial state. So soon after it became a partial state, the first university to be established was IPU. Now, students, the question which generally comes in our mind is that we assume that the rankings given by government agencies are much more reliable. So NIRF is a government agency. It means National Institutional Ranking Framework, and NIRF has ranked IP University as 95th in India, right? So that is the general rank. When you talk about an engineering course, the rank is 86 as given by NIRF. And when you talk about a business management course like BBA or MBA, the ranking is 57th. Now, how do we interpret these rankings? Let us try to go into a little detail. How many universities are there in our country? The number is 875, and this number includes 4 categories. What are the 4 categories? Central universities, state government universities, private universities, and deemed universities. All these 4 categories taken together, the number is 875. So out of 875, if IP University's ranking is 95th, in general, I can say that it stands among the top 10% universities in our country. While we talk about engineering, the ranking is still better. And if you talk about a business management course, the ranking is among the top 5% universities in this country. And mind it, these rankings are not given by India Today or Times of India. Means I'm not saying that the rankings, I'm not questioning the rankings by Times of India or India Today. But then, yes, you know how this world works. And therefore, the rankings given by government are considered to be much more reliable. And NIRF, National Institutional Ranking Framework, is a government agency. The best way is you can check whatever I am presenting here on Google after this presentation. At the same time, we have another agency which does grading. It grades into A plus, then B double plus, B, C, D, like that. Again, the ranking given to IP University is A. Then there is another question, students, that is about the recognition of your degree. Many times we find that you go for admission to any foreign country for your post-graduation, and the question mark is there relating to your degree. So that question mark is removed. Is removed by what? By a membership of AIU. AIU is Association of Indian Universities. So if any university is a member of AIU, it simply means that the degree provided by that university is recognized by every university on this earth. All universities of the world are going to recognize the degree given by IPU. Why? Because it is a member of AIU, Association of Indian Universities. Now, as I said, the university has got around 95 colleges which are located in Delhi and NCR. So Delhi means you are in Kadkarduma, so there may be a college nearby you. Then Noida is close. There may be a college in Noida also, a college in Ghaziabad also, a college in Greater Noida also. So IPU has got 95 colleges which are located in Delhi plus in NCR. And NCR means what? Ghaziabad, Gautam Buddh Nagar, Faridabad, Gurugram, and Sonipat. So these are the adjoining districts. Adjoining means districts which touch Delhi, right? So it has got around 95 colleges. Coming to courses, which I am going to discuss in my second point today. The number of courses is 80. Mind it, I am not going to discuss all the 80 courses. I am going to discuss only the major courses. For that, I'll give you link of the prospectus in which you can go and have a look at all the 80 courses. Coming to the number of students, yes, it's a huge university with 80,000 students. As far as international standards are concerned, a university with 80,000 students is considered to be a very large university. Okay. So we close with the first point, which is about the introduction of IPU. Before moving ahead, I would like to tell you the difference between a professional and an academic course, because IPU runs professional courses and University of Delhi runs academic courses. Now, professional courses are like hotel management, like BBA, MBA, like engineering, like law. These are professional courses which train a student for a specific profession. While an academic course like history or psychology or sociology or commerce, like these courses do not train you for any specific profession. They train you in general. So we can understand the difference between a professional and an academic course by simply saying that academic course provides you knowledge, and the output is knowledge enhancement. Definitely your knowledge is increased. But then a professional course provides you knowledge plus how to apply that, means the skills, and the most important part, attitude. And therefore the direct output is placements. I must tell you before closing this slide that with liberalization, privatization, and globalization, we find that the need for academic courses is going down because government jobs are shrinking. Lesser number of government jobs are available in the post-LPG era. You must have studied LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So in the post-LPG era, LPG started in 1991. So in the post-LPG era, we find that the government sector is shrinking. Government is withdrawing itself from majority of the jobs, right? Government says that no, say for example, electricity or say running buses or running aeroplanes, the government says that this is not our job. Let the private sector do this, and we have seen that private sector does it more efficiently. You can take the example of telecom sector or any other sector. While it was with the government, it was run in an inefficient manner. While it went to the private sector, you can get a connection within a minute, right? So with LPG, the government sector is withdrawing itself. So the number of government jobs is shrinking. It is becoming less, while the number of private jobs is increasing. And what do the private companies need? They need an academic course and a professional course. No, they need a professionally trained person who is ready for any job. So this is the difference between an academic course and a professional course. That a professional course like BTech or BBLLB or BBA or BJMC or hotel management, it trains you for a specific profession, while an academic course does not. And as I said, University of Delhi is all about academic courses, and IPU is all about professional courses. So in case you want to go for an academic course, you can go to University of Delhi. If you want to go for a professional course, you need to go to IPU. And as I said, the need for professional courses is increasing, and that of government, academic courses is decreasing. The next section of this presentation is little interesting. Why it is interesting? Because there is going to be a picture, a photograph of a popular film actress whom you know very well. Okay, so what is this section? The notable alumni of IPU. Okay, who are these? Oh my God, the first one is Madam Tapsi Pannu. She did her BTech Computer Science in 2009 from IPU. She does not need any introduction. The next name is Gaurav Sharma. He's a very popular author, God of the Salid. I'm sure many of you and your teachers must have read this. Then Gone Are the Days is also another very popular novel. Um, then we have Mr. Gaurav Gogoi, who did his BTech ECE in 2004 from IPU, and he is deputy leader of Congress in the Lok Sabha. And then there are so many popular alumni in this presentation. I have taken only 4, right? And Guneet Monga, all of you have watched the movie Gangs of Wasipur. So she is the producer of that movie. So that's about, that was just to grab your attention. It's about the notable alumni. There are so many, I've taken only 4. Moving to the second part of this presentation, the courses. As I said, IPU is all about professional courses, but let us divide professional courses into categories. What are these categories? Category 1 is the professional courses which need a specific background. Specific background means what? Say, for example, BTech. So it says that you must have PCM at your 12th. Similarly, if you want to do, say, MBBS, then it says that you must have biology at your 12th. But then the first category of courses is stream neutral courses. What are these courses, students? These are very important because they do not need any specific background. They do not have any requirement of any subject at 12th. You may have commerce, you may have humanities, you may have mathematics, you may have bio, or even you may have vocational. These courses welcome you and you are eligible for these courses. Yes, the minimum eligibility remains 50% at 12th. Okay, the link is given here, my dear students. You can click this link. This will be provided to you in the chat box right now by my colleague Ved Priya. And you can click this link and you can see all the 80 courses. I'm going to talk about the major courses in this presentation today. So while we talk about stream neutral courses, first category is the law courses. Well, BA LLB 5-year integrated, BBA LLB 5-year integrated. Then Bachelor of Arts in Journalism and Mass Communication, it's a 3-year course. BBA again is a 3-year course. Bachelor of Hotel Management and Catering Technology, BHMCT, is a 4-year course, right? Now, these courses are stream neutral because they do not require any specific subject in your 12th class. Just to conclude this slide, the integrated courses are very popular in IPU for the simple reason that you get 2 degrees in 5 years. So there are 2 advantages. What are the advantages? Number 1, you decide on your career path right after 12th. Okay, you did not do your graduation and then decide about your career. You decide your career right after 12th. And second advantage is you save 1 year. Say, for example, if you do BBA and then you do LLB, how much time it will take? 3 plus 3, 6 years. If you do BA and then you do LLB, how much time it is going to take? 3 plus 3, 6 years. But with an integrated course, you save 1 year. So in 5 years, you get 2 degrees. If you do BBA LLB, you get BBA plus LLB, 2 degrees in 5 years. That's the beauty of the integrated courses, and that is why these courses have become popular also. So that's about the stream neutral courses. I'm going to take up questions in the end. Then there are courses which are not stream neutral. Say, for example, Bachelor of Technology. For doing BTech, you need PCM at your 12th. Similarly, for Bachelor of Architecture, you need PCM at your 12th. For pharmacy course, again, you need biology. And for a course in nursing, again, you need biology. So that was the second part of our presentation, wherein I talked about the professional courses available at IPU. There are around 80 courses. I have talked about only the major courses. The link is given there. It will be provided to you in the chat box. You can go and see all the courses. There are courses like MBBS. There are courses on yoga. There are courses on fashion design, but I have not included that because these are the major courses which IPU is running. Now we move to the third part of the presentation, right? What is that? The third part simply says how to get admission, right? Uh, Students, the objective of this presentation is career counseling is simply to guide you what to do, how to do, right? So if you talk about admission, the last date for applying is 31st July, and the link is given here. This link will be provided to you by my colleague, and you can click on this link and register yourself for IPU by paying rupees 1200, right? Unless that 1200 is paid, your registration is not done. Now, there are two kinds of courses in IPU. Number one, for which IPU conducts its own entrance. Number two, for which IPU does not conduct its own entrance. So, for those for which it does not conduct its own entrance, for these courses, IPU considers the scores of national level exams. So, what are the national level exams? For engineering, it is JEE. For architecture, it is NATA. For law, it is CLAT. So you need to appear at these exams, and the scores of these exams will be considered by IPU. Say for example, for JEE, this time due to COVID, a special facility has been given that JEE will be held 4 times. 2 times it has already been held. Another 2 times it is going to be held. So you can apply for JEE, number one, then register for CET, this thing, IPU, and your job is done. You prepare for JEE. The score of that will be considered by IPU. IPU does not conduct its own entrance for engineering, for architecture, for law. So what does it do? It will consider the scores of these national level exams. But then there are courses like BBA, journalism, hotel management, for which IPU is conducting its own entrance exam. Why? Because for these courses, there is no national level examination available. There is no national level examination available for BBA, no national level examination available for journalism. So that is why IPU conducts its own entrance exam for BBA, journalism, hotel management, etc. Okay, so that's about the admission process. To conclude this slide, I must tell you that due to the COVID wave 3, which may come anytime, I don't know. I pray to God it does not come. So there is a special provision of on-the-spot admission. So you can simply visit your nearby college. Say for example, you are in Kadkar Duma, so the nearby college can be in Ghaziabad or Noida somewhere. You can simply visit that college, and the college can give you admission on the spot, provided you have appeared at JEE, NATA or CLAT accordingly, and you have registered yourself for CET. Anyway, the college people can always guide you. You simply visit your nearby college and your admission will be finalized. So that's all about the admission process. Moving on to the next part of the presentation. Oh, what is this? Students, audience, what is this? Okay, it's your parents' hard-earned money. So we are talking about the fee structures of IPU. Yes, my dear students, Delhi NCR is a hub of private colleges, universities, and therefore the fee structure varies a lot. Some universities are charging maybe very high, but since IPU is a government-run university, therefore the fee structure per year is quite nominal. Say for example, for a law course, it's simply 80,000 per year. For engineering, it may be 1 lakh per year. For hotel management, it may be 1,10,000 per year. The range is this only. This is the broad range in which the courses run by IPU have their fee structures, right? There is another advantage, students. While you take admission in a government university, there are no hidden charges. Tomorrow, they may not say for example, you take admission in law and you pay 81,000. Tomorrow, they cannot say that pay additionally for examination or for placements or picnics. This does not happen in a government affiliated college, right? So this is about the fee structure. We have now come to the second part of this fee structure, scholarships. Students, I can tell you, all of you belong to Delhi. Delhi is the richest state in India as far as per capita income is concerned. Okay, students of economics can understand that per capita income is a very reasonable parameter for measuring the richness of a state or a country. So when we talk about per capita income, Delhi is the richest state, and therefore Delhi has got the best scholarship schemes. So Merit-cum means is a very popular scheme. Anyone can get scholarship in this. It's not like 200 people apply and 20 get. No. Mind it, the beauty of Merit-cum means scholarship is that whosoever applies for this gets the scholarship. Whosoever means what? Very simple. The student should have 60% and above and no reappear. So please mind it, while you study at IPU, take care of these two things, 60% and no reappear, and you are bound to get a scholarship. Okay. Then there are other scholarships for economically weaker sections. Then there are reservations for all the categories like OBC, physically handicapped, ex-servicemen, SC, ST. There are reservations because it's a government university, so reservations are bound to be there. And for SC, ST students, etc., the 100% scholarship is available by the government. So now we move to the last part of today's presentation. What is that? This last part is going to talk about the scope of these professional courses. First, I'll talk about the law courses. Yes, I can enumerate, I can explain the scope of law courses in four ways, or there are four avenues where a law graduate can make his or her career. First is litigation, right? You may start your own practice, very simple. Second is you may join a law firm. Third is you may go for judiciary. You may become a magistrate. And fourth is politics. Yes, while we look around the world, we find that people like Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, the new Indian Vice President of USA, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, Mahatma Gandhi, all of them were law graduates. So therefore, I say for law courses, there are four avenues of placements. Do your practice, join a law firm, become a magistrate, judiciary, or join politics. Coming to journalism, yes, wherever you see any kind of media, whether it is news or Netflix or Sony Live or Amazon Prime or whatever, who is producing those things? People from journalism and mass communication. So while you watch anything on your mobile, when you watch anything on your mobile, yes, on this mobile, while you watch anything, who is preparing that? Who is producing that? These are the students of journalism and mass communication. So there's something called OTT, which has become very popular, over the top. So over the top means anything which is provided by internet. So while you are watching, say, any movie or any popular series like Mirzapur or whatever, that is prepared by none other than the students of journalism and mass communication. Talking about the scope of a management course like BBA, there are traditional areas where a student can work, and then there are the upcoming areas. The traditional areas wherein you can find a career after a management course are marketing, finance, and HR, right? Marketing, finance, and HR are the three areas in which a student from business administration can have a career. Then there are the upcoming areas like international business, like operations, like retail, like aviation, like pharma. These are the sectoral courses, sectoral areas where you can make a career. So therefore, for a business management graduate, well, lot of scope is there, and you can get job at any place, because everywhere in every organization managers are needed. Like your school principal, Madam Khatri, is a good manager. That is why she organized this session for you. Coming to Bachelor of Hotel Management and Catering Technology, The traditional areas where a BHM city graduate can have a career are what? They are front office, then housekeeping, then food and beverage. We generally say that a hotel management graduate does three things: cool, cook, and serve, right? So while you cool, cook, and serve, you go for front office career, you go for a housekeeping career, or you go for a career in food and beverages management. This is the scope of hotel management. Yes, students, a question comes here. Generally, this question has been asked to me in previous webinars that hotel management is facing a very bad time. I agree with you, but then the point is that any industry which faces bad times in 2021 or 2022, will it going to remain in bad shape forever? No. Industries renovate themselves, new things come up, and then we find that the industry takes a very good shape. The industry takes off again. In marketing, we call it extended product life cycle, right? So hotel management is like hotel industry is facing a very bad period in the post-COVID era, but I am sure human beings are social animals. We can't live without recreation, and therefore students who are going to take admission in hotel management in 21 or 22 or 23, when they are going to complete the course after 4 years, I am sure the times will be very good for hotel management industry as well. Uh, Talking about BTech, yes, students, I want to tell you something here. Um Technology is something which is very, very pattern oriented. Now, what are the patterns which we have observed? You think about the times when your parents were there, or even while your grandparents were there, the post-independence era, the country was building itself, and therefore civil engineering was at the top. Then came electrical engineering. It was at the top because India is a power deficient country, and therefore everywhere there was a demand for electrical engineers. Then we went for a lot of factories and production. The demand for mechanical engineers increased a lot. But then what happened in the last 20 years? In the last 20 years, civil, mechanical, electrical, all are gone. What is happening now? There is huge demand for computer science and electronics people. So civil, mechanical, electrical, we call them hard branches of engineering, while computer science, electronics, we call them the soft branches. One more advantage is there, one more point is there, that in hard branches of engineering, generally females were not going. Girls were not going because civil was a field job, electrical, mechanical, they were field jobs. So girls were not opting. But for soft branches like engineering, like computer science, electronics, girls are doing wonders. So in the present scenario, I must give my opinion here that computer science is a branch for which there is a huge demand. And in the post-COVID era, digitization is going to be taken up in a big, big manner. And therefore, the demand for computer science engineers is going to be there for coming 40 to 50 years. Mind it, coming 40 to 50 years, the demand for computer science engineers is going to be huge because digitization is going to be taken up in a big, big manner. Talking about architecture, it is a 5-year course. The scope of architecture, yes, in the post-demonetization era, architecture or civil engineering went for a downfall. But then in a country like India, wherein we have 18% of the world population, 1/6 of the world's human beings live in India. So do you think the demand of housing can be low? It cannot be. Yes, there was an oversupply during the past 20, 30 years, but then soon the demand for housing is going to pick up. Soon the demand for infrastructure is going to pick up. Infrastructure, I think already the demand never went down. And therefore, the people who are going to go for this architecture course, it's a 5-year course. So those who will take admission in 2021 or 2022, those students will find a good scope while they'll be graduating after 5 years. Coming to pharmacy, well, COVID has taught us a lesson that we are not investing in the medical, in the health sector. So yes, governments must take a lesson. They must invest in the health sector. and that is the scope of pharmacy. Yes, with Covaxin and Covishield, who's doing all that? The companies like Pfizer or Moderna, and these are what pharma companies. So that defines the scope of B Pharma. I must say it's a good course, and you can go for that. Then nursing. Now, please mind it, there are 2 points here. One, nurse is not a female word. In foreign countries, we find that there are so many male nurses also. Nurse is a word which is gender neutral. Generally, we have a perception that it's a female word. It's a gender neutral word. So nurses from India are very popular for their good service-oriented attitude throughout the world. You go to Gulf, you visit Saudi Arabia, you visit Qatar, everywhere you find Indian nurses are highly respected and well paid. So that's the scope of nursing. We are moving to the close of today's session, and this is the question which is running through your mind. I know it, right? How do I answer that? Should I say that this course is good for you or that is bad for you? Should I behave like a Baba that Kripa yahan ruki hui hai, aise kar lo? Should I do like that? That would be wrong on my part. We are counselors. So therefore, let me explain to you which course is best for you. My dear students, you look around any course, researchers have proved that in each and every course on this earth, 50% students do well. They are successful. 25%, they are very successful. And 25% are not successful. So this curve, this diagram is very well defining. The middle portion is the huge portion wherein we have successful people. So majority of the people are successful, around 50%. Then 25% are very successful. They are like super hits. And then there are 25% who, for whatever reason, they fail to perform, right? Now, the last slide of this session, what is the formula for success? Means no one wants to be in the failure part or the less successful part. I should not use the word failure. I should say less successful. No one wants to be in the less successful part. So what do we do? What do you need for success? My dear students, you need 3 things for success. Whichever course you do, if you have the right set of knowledge and you know how to apply that knowledge and you have the corporate ready attitude, jobs are waiting for you. The entire world is waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation. I'm sure it has offered the students much clarity. So with this, we will now be taking questions. So I'm sure you must have had questions during the presentation. I request you to please type it out in the chat box and share it with me so that we can present it to our guest. So we do have our first question. So you have spoken about scholarships. So the student is asking, is there any COVID-related scholarship currently offered by IP?
Yes, Delhi government has recently notified COVID-related scholarship. If any student has lost the earning family member, then the COVID-related scholarships are there. The notice was recently put up by IP University. Plus, as I said, you can visit your nearby colleges. Colleges are also providing some COVID-related scholarships. Definitely, they are there. The government is there to help you. The colleges are there to help you if you have lost the earning member in your family.
Okay. Sir, Ria is asking, does IPU offer CSE branch with specialization in artificial intelligence and data science?
Okay. Well, let me brief you about the system of education. My dear students, at graduation level, you never have any specialization. BTech is in computer science, MBBS is MBBS, BSc is BSc, BCom is BCom, right? You don't have things like specializations at the graduation level. Graduation is like Kathak. Okay, it teaches, it makes your body flexible. It teaches you how to dance. Then later on, Madhuri Dixit can dance on any song. So the graduation is like a basic training. You do not have specializations at graduation level. Yes, Betpriya, I agree that there are some private universities who are offering some fancy options like BTech in cyber security. I fail to understand. While the student does not know about the basics, directly you are taking that student to cyber security. So please, you look around the world, nowhere there are specializations at the graduation level. But then some universities are offering, these are just marketing gimmicks, these are just fancy options. Like BB in international business, what does that mean? First, I must understand what are the basics of management, and then I can go for that. Similarly, law, LLB, like you can't have LLB in labor law, right? Although the full form is that only. But then you can't have an LLB in cyber laws. Cyber laws you may go for while doing your LLM. So specializations are there only at the post-graduation level. At the graduation level, it's the basic grounding, the basic training, specializations are not there. So don't be misguided by such options like BTech in artificial intelligence. Yes, while you do BTech in computer science, artificial intelligence will be an important subject. You will be trained in artificial intelligence, but that does not mean that you will be trained only in artificial intelligence. Tomorrow, say artificial intelligence faces some bad time and some new technology comes, you will be jobless. So therefore, at the graduation level, I believe you can check throughout the world. There are no specializations. Yes, some universities are offering such fancy options, and these are marketing gimmicks.
Okay, sir. So Ali is asking, what is the difference between BTech and BCA?
Between
BTech and BCA.
BTech and BCA. Okay. BTech provides you, BTech makes you an engineer, while Bachelor of Computer Application makes you, it provides a simple graduation in computer science. Um, I must say that both courses are like parallel to each other. But if you ask me, I will prefer that becoming an engineer. That's a better tag for you. So BCA saves your 1 year. It's a 3-year degree, and BTech is a 4-year degree. But if given an option, you should go for BTech because that will at least make you an engineer.
All right. So in continuation to his question, he has asked, is BCA a professional course as well?
BCA is a professional course and it is also available at IPU. Yes, a Bachelor in Computer Application. Students, while we talk about application, the course becomes professional. While we talk about theory, it's an academic course, as I said in that slide. So BCA is a professional course.
Okay. So next question is from Ria. She says that is the fee structure for students getting admission through MQ and then through JEE mains the same?
The fee structure for any category, because it is a government university, the fee structure remains identical. I'm using the word identical, which means there cannot be a difference even of a single rupee. The fee structure is same whether tomorrow you go to a college and get admission, the fee structure will be same, which will be there while you will be coming through counseling. Fee structures are same. That is the beauty of government organizations. They don't have different structures. They do not discriminate. If any college is discriminating, it's a malpractice.
Okay. So, sir, next question is from Ananya. She asks, is MBA available in IPU?
MBA. Of course, MBA is available. As I said, IPU is about professional courses, and therefore MBA is available in IPU. Yes, but I believe we have students from 11th and 12th. So after BBA, you can go for MBA, or even after BBA LLB, you can go for MBA. It is very much available in IPU.
Okay.
All the professional courses are available in IPU.
So, Mridul asks, what are the placement statistics of IPU?
Placements.
Placement statistics, sir.
Okay, placement statistics. So, for which course the student wants to know, or should I talk in general terms?
So he has not mentioned that. So I think maybe
Okay.
we can go for a general.
Okay. So, students, while we talk about placements, well, professional courses there is no problem of placement while you go for any professional course, be it hotel management or journalism or BBA or BBLLB. Like jobs are there for you. And while I talk about the placement structure, I can tell you that colleges in Delhi are at a very, very advantageous position. How? Say, for example, you study at a college in Jodhpur or Pathankot or Bhilai, then in that case, the company has to travel from Delhi to that place because all the companies, majority of the companies have their offices in Delhi. So that is little difficult. But if a college is located in Delhi, it's easy to call the companies. Therefore, placements is easy, and the colleges in Delhi NCR are better located geographically while we talk about placements. So you name any company and it is visiting IP colleges. You name any company, you name any bank, you name any IT company, they are visiting IPU colleges. So I know a college in Greater Noida which runs BTech. So I found that Oracle visited that college. So it's a big achievement. So this is about the placements. And talking about the packages offered, well, students, I can tell you that companies interview students, and more often than not, they um, they offer different packages. What I'm trying to say is that if a student is very good, they may offer you a better package. If a student is average, then they may uh, then they may offer you a little lower package. So packages, they depend on your knowledge, your skills, and your attitude.
Wonderful. So we are getting a storm of questions. I'll just go one by one with them. So, sir, the first one is that through NEET and its ranking, can somebody take an admission in MBBS courses? Does IP offer MBBS courses?
Definitely, IPU has got MBBS course, and for that the NEET scores are needed. And after NEET, you can participate in the IPU counseling.
Okay. Okay, so Mridul has now clarified that he was asking for mechanical engineering, the placements. So,
The placements for mechanical engineering, okay, I can tell you, like students, while we talk about the Indian economy, 55% of India's GDP comes from the services sector, which includes IT, banking, insurance, etc. 35% of India's GDP comes from the manufacturing sector, and the balance 15% comes from the agriculture sector. So while we talk about mechanical, the students from mechanical are placed in this 35% sector. So, well, Delhi again is a hub of manufacturing. You look around all the districts surrounding Delhi, you find they are the hubs of manufacturing. Like Gurgaon is an auto belt, Faridabad is a huge manufacturing hub. Ghaziabad is an old manufacturing hub with companies like Dabur and all that. So, as far as a mechanical engineer is concerned, you can get a job in the manufacturing sector, and means I can name any company, and it's available in the Delhi NCR region for placements. Like you go in that Greater Noida region, there's a complete industrial belt. Yama is there, Subros is there. You name any company, and they are having their manufacturing plants there. So you can get a placement over there. As far as package is concerned, yes, it will depend on your knowledge, your skills, and your attitude.
of course. So again, another question is that can we change course options in college while if we have filled the course for another course in the application form?
No, in IPU, if you want to apply for 5 courses, you have to apply 5 times. You have to pay 1,200 rupees 5 times. So there is no swapping or overlapping as far as the application in IPU is concerned. IPU is very clear on that. Only for courses like say for law, BBLLB, BLLB, single application is there because both are law courses. But it cannot be same for hotel management and BBA. If you want to apply for hotel management and BBA, you need to apply twice. You need to pay 1,200 2 times, and you need to appear in both the entrance exams. There's no overlapping.
Okay. So what are the courses available for computer science? Anybody who wishing to pursue computer science?
For computer science, I think uh, the two courses available are BTech in Computer Science and BCA. And as I have already given my opinion, I would prefer BTech in Computer Science because that makes you an engineer. So BTech Computer Science is the best course available as far as computer science is concerned. And as I said, the wave of digitization, which is going to happen in the coming 3 to 4 decades, computer science engineers are going to be the torch bearer for that wave. So jobs are going to be there, good jobs are going to be there for computer science and IT professionals in the coming 3 to 4 decades.
Okay. So the next one is a little specific. Ria is asking if you have any idea of the cutoff for CSE branch of JEE mains and the placements IPU has to offer regarding the same.
Okay, as far as cutoffs are concerned, I can tell you there are no cutoffs. There is a reason for that, because in any competitive exam like JEE, even if you have 0 marks, your rank may be good. Try to understand this point. Even if I have -5 out of 100, my rank may be good. What does that mean? It simply means that ranks are decided by percentile and not by percentage. What is the difference between percentile and percentage? Percentage is in absolute terms, while percentile is in relative terms. So my score is -5 out of 100. But then there are thousands of students below me. They have -6, -7 like that. So I may have a good rank despite the fact that due to negative marking, my score was -5 out of 100. So therefore, there are no cutoffs. With any cutoff, you can get admission in BTech Computer Science because these are in relative terms. Please try to understand this point, right? And for JEE, 2 more attempts are there. You can apply for JEE because without appearing at JEE, IP University cannot give you admission.
Okay. So another question: are students of Delhi given any merit over students of other states at IPU?
Uh, yes, my dear students, there is a system in education. We call it the 1585 quota. I'll not say 1585 syndrome because 1585 simply means that for IPU, 85% seats are for the Delhi students and 15% for outside Delhi. Now there is an important catch here. What do you mean? How do you define a Delhi student? A Delhi student is a student who did his 12th from Delhi. Any school in Delhi, if you have done your 12th, you may belong to West Bengal or Patna or anywhere, but if you have done your 12th from Delhi, you will be treated as a Delhi student. You fall in 85% quota. That's one. Now there's an important catch here that for students who do not belong to Delhi, I'll say they do not fall in 15% quota. They are not discriminated against for the simple reason that, and in the last counseling, we call it spot counseling, all these quotas merge with each other. Are you getting this point? Say while there is counseling 1, 2, 3, there is a quota 1585. But then in the last counseling, all the quotas will merge. So the moment the quotas merge, there is nothing like Delhi or outside Delhi. So please shed this perception away. There is nothing like Delhi outside Delhi. Eventually, entire India becomes one. So it's like that. So please don't worry about those quota systems. You can visit any college and we can explain to you in detail. But I am also explaining to you here that in fact these quotas do not matter. They do not matter. There's nothing like a geographical quota. Even if it is there, eventually it becomes one. So it does not matter. It will not harm you.
So are there any student exchange programs in IPU University?
Well, IPU does not go for exchange programs wherein 2 years in India, 1 year in any other country, because I said there is a problem. There is a problem of recognition. AIU may not recognize your degree if such exchange program is there. Yes, there are other exchange programs like the students going for summer training to London or to Paris or Rome. Such things are there. Such exchange programs are there, but IPU, being a government university, does not say that we should go like this, that 2 years in India, 1 year in some other country. Again, these are marketing gimmicks. These are fancy options. IPU does not go for these.
Mhm. So, sir, we have almost come to the end of the questions now. Students, if you have any other question, you may please post it in the chat box, or otherwise we'll be closing with the questions. Is there any question? All right. Sir, there is a question from Varsha that what are the courses for a PCMB student?
PCM and biology.
Yes, sir.
Well, for a PCM bio students, for PCM you have engineering, and for biology you have pharmacy, you have MBBS, you have nursing. All those courses are there. So PCMB has got both the options, the mathematics ones as well as the bio ones. So BTech, architecture, then pharmacy, then nursing, then MBBS. All the options are open for the PCMB students.
All right. So I think, sir, that is pretty much the end of the questions that we have for today. I have shared a number here, which is 7042667516. This is the number of our admissions counselor. So while you're filling your form, or if you have any query regarding admissions in IP, you can get in touch with her and she will direct you, solve your queries, and it will be very easy for you to take part in the admission processes at IP. So please note down this number which is there in your chat box. I will write it again. And you can please contact them whenever you're sitting to fill for the forms at IP. Last date is 31st. So you should remember that while filling the forms. So, sir, with this, we are coming to the close of the event today. So a very quick vote of thanks for everybody here. So first and foremost, I would like to thank Poonam Rani ma'am for all her support for helping us in organizing this event. Thank you, sir, for this informative presentation. I'm sure students have received much clarity on everything that's going on regarding their career options that they have to choose. And to Roli ma'am for the back-end coordination. Thank you so much, ma'am. And most importantly, thank you to all the students here who have patiently heard and who have actively participated in this event today. So with this, we come to an end and we close the session. Thank you very much.